On. Can you guys hear me? Give me a yes if you can hear me and you're watching. Let me just make sure that we got the right microphone all hooked up, and we should. It looks like it. So give me a hello if you are watching. Let me know that you can hear me loud and clear, because there's a lot that I want to cover tonight. So thanks for being here. I'm looking around at the different lives that we are streaming to this evening. So thank you, Joanne, for letting me know. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Those of you who are watching, let me know where you're watching from this evening. Where are you watching from? So I got to tell you what happened, that I was like, I've got to get on here tonight and make sure that people hear this, because I think there's so much confusion in the world today, in the health space, with the internet, and people are scrolling, they're seeing stuff. I have clients who message me all their time. They're like, "Hey, what do you think of XYZ?" or "What do you think of XYZ?" And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about sometimes, right? But there's a lot going on out there, and I got to tell you. So yesterday, yesterday might have been the day before. I was scrolling, checking our social media pages, and I came across this post that blew my mind. So let me tell you a little bit about the post. And listen, I don't want to get on here and say bad things about anybody or anything like that. So not the intention. But I wanted to draw attention to what was happening because it's pervasive. And so let me tell you about this post. It was a post that was done by a major influencer in the health space, someone who is very vocal, a strong advocate for like biohacking and the biohacking movement. And so I'm scrolling and I see his post, and I read the post, and I liked what I heard in the language of the post. The post was really about, we have to honor and make our own choices and decisions when it comes to our health, and I 100% respect that. And it was pretty clear that it was a promotional post. They were promoting other parts of their services, but this expert gave way to like, hey, if people want to do Botox or Ozempic or have a facelift, they should do that. And I agree, right? Your body is your choice 1000%. And, there's no shame involved in any of your health decisions. But I thought it was pretty irresponsible to kind of put that out there and not talk about the other consequences that are real and prevalent with those different things. And yes, this person is someone who stands for health and longevity, and they also want to make sure that they still look young. And kudos for being honest about like, hey, I had a facelift so that you could see what I'm doing because I want to look younger, and they were honest and authentic about that. But at the same time, there wasn't a balanced conversation about what the side effects and what the impacts are of those things. And that's really what I wanted to call attention to. So guys, if you're here and watching, just say hello, leave a comment. Tell us maybe where you're watching from, what state you're in, or tell me what your thoughts are on this, the optimization of your health. I'm going to call it a craze in some sense, because there are so many things out there now that are like, do this, do that. You have a quick fix here. You can have a quick fix there. And it has consequences. It has consequences that we still have to let people know, and we still have to be responsible for as health educators. Hi, Liz. Thanks for joining us tonight. So this is the thing that I want to get into. So let me ask you a question. When did health turn into a competition to see how much we could actually override the body instead of how well we can actually listen to it? when did it become that competition? Think about it. It's become this space of do all the things to push your body and maybe not actually listen to what your body needs. Now, you guys who have been following me and you know me, I'm a strong advocate for the body-led movement, which I've created, which is really about being in tune, in line with your body rather than pushing your body. Because we know that pushing your body creates all sorts of stressors. So, in this post, for example, they were talking about Ozempic and they were talking about Botox and they were talking about, cosmetic surgery to look young. These are all things that push your body. They are not led by your body, and each one of those things has a consequence. And, this person's not at fault. And again, their message was your health, your choice. And I totally resonate with that, totally agree with that. But we've got to start to look at things a little bit differently than just that quick fix model. So I know that everywhere we look these days, it's like I see the word optimization, right? Or biohacking or what have you. It's like optimize your metabolism, take this pill or this injection, optimize your hormones, take this and take that, optimize your face, like, do some injections, optimize your longevity. And what's missing from most of these conversations is something that's really basic. And that is the biological consequences, because there are consequences to every single thing that we do with regard to our health, good or bad. And I mean, there's consequences to decide to stay up late and scroll. I won't keep you guys too late here tonight for sure, because I value your sleep. But there's consequences to things like that, just as there's consequences to injecting toxins basically into your skin. So tonight my intention is not about judging personal choices. Okay. Because we all have to come to that space where we make choices that are best for ourselves and our family. But it's really about asking a much bigger and better question. And that is, what does the body actually why does it have to pay for the choices that we're now normalizing in the name of health, if that makes sense? So I want to be clear about my stance. I believe incredibly deeply about bodily autonomy, right? Adults get to make their own choices about their bodies. Nobody should be shamed for any medical or personal choices that they make. Okay. But autonomy works, right, when it's paired with truth, transparency, context. And that's where I think the health and the biohacking space has started to really lose its footing. If you've been following me for a while, one of the biggest things I keep saying is, hey, we've got to get back to basics. We've got to get back to basics, because the basics are really fundamentally how the body works. Okay. And when we're aligned with how the body works, when we're aligned and getting those basics covered, everything else becomes more of a moot point. So we've begun to talk about very different interventions as if they're the same things, right? Supplements, pharmaceuticals, injectables, surgery, and they're all kind of being lumped together right now as tools, okay? But biologically, the truth is they are not equivalent. They do not carry the same risks. They don't have the same reversibility. And they certainly, they don't demand the same level of physiological resilience, right? When everything is framed as a neutral upgrade to your body, those sort of nuances, they begin to disappear. So I think that this is something that rarely gets said out loud. And that's, the body does not experience optimization, right? The body experiences events, right? Immune activation, inflammation, healing demand, nervous system load, metabolic trade-offs. And every intervention that we do is an asking of the body to adapt. Okay. So you guys know so bioenergetics is really important to me. It's the way that, we operate in our practice. And so your body has a response to everything. And if you're not sure how that works, drop us a message somewhere in wherever you're watching. We'll find you and reach out to explain more, you guys. But your body has a response to each and everything. And if something is positive to the body, right, it may have a positive, nice, coherent response. If it's negative, your body's like, whoa, don't do that. Okay. And each thing has a cascading effect. And this goes beyond, you guys. It's not just about whether you're taking a supplement or a pharmaceutical, but even the thoughts that we have, the words that we say, those all matter significantly. So if we are in this space where we're constantly trying to manipulate our body by forcing it, then we never come back into that space of what I call bioenergetic coherence. So I don't think that longevity is not about how many interventions you can tolerate. So some of you might be relieved because you're like, oh my God, I got to get up. I got to meditate. I got to ground. I got to go look at the sun. I got to go in a sauna. I got to go in a cold plunge. I got to do all these things. And you're like, and where are the hours supposed to go? How am I supposed to live and get things done during the day? Right. But the truth is, adaptation, it costs energy in your body. It costs minerals. It affects your signaling capacity. Everything needs a specific recovery time based on where your body's at. So longevity is not about how many interventions you can tolerate, right? It's really, I think it's about how little you need to force the body and how much you can actually work along with and in tune with your body. What do you guys think? Give me some comments. Give me some comments here. What you're thinking about what I'm saying. Yeah. So Elizabeth's like, yeah, understanding your body and its limits. It's really important, you guys, because I'll tell you, so in the work that I do with the kinesiologic testing that I use in my practice, somebody might be completely fine with one thing, whereas someone else, it could completely throw them off balance. And this is important to remember because I think a lot of people out there are struggling with their health. There is so much information all over social media. I have a pet peeve with it. If you're all wondering, like, why don't we see Dr. D more on social media? I'm working on it. But to be completely honest, I'm still trying to figure out how I can increase my social media presence without becoming part of the social media problem. Does that make sense? I haven't found that. If anyone's got some good words of wisdom, I would appreciate it. Full transparency and vulnerability there, you guys. But so let me step back. So there's so much of this information. I feel like a lot of people are out there. They're kind of scrolling late at night. Maybe they're having hot flashes or menopausal symptoms or weight gain or things like that. And they're just looking for solutions. And so they're bombarded with all of this information that then leaves them in information overload, right? Which, by the way, creates stress in your body. So now your body's in a stress response. And it's kind of like they're throwing darts at the dartboard, trying to hit the bullseye with all of these different things versus just stopping, pausing, and coming to the space where they align with their body. Now this post that I'm referencing, it was talking about things like Ozempic and Botox. And, the premise was, if you choose these things for your body and it helps you feel better about yourself and take away shame, that's important because shame impacts your nervous system and increases your cortisol. And that's not good for your health either. And that's true. I will not dispute that. But there's also a consequence of doing those things and having them impact your body. And my question is this. So I think we're in a world, and you guys chime in, let me know what your thoughts are. I'm just talking about my response and reaction, my visceral reaction to this post. there's so much on social media, for example, or so much of having to meet certain qualifications, look a certain way to feel like you are accepted in the world. And a lot of that is, it's driven by things that have happened in our past, in our childhood. It's those unresolved emotions that continue to well up. When we do our retreats, we always have amazing women who come and participate in our retreats. But these things come up each and every time, even in sessions that we do with our clients where we're talking about body image. It is a big deal. And I tell you, we've had clients who've done all sorts of interventions from, tummy tucks to breast reductions to implants to you name it. And it's not about the shame, you guys. The one thing that I want you to just stop and pause and ask yourself is, why am I feeling this way about that? Right? So if you're carrying around some extra weight and you're having a response, like a stress response or a shame response to that weight, ask yourself, where is that coming from? Where is it coming from? Now there's a fine line, right? I think we need to love ourselves no matter what. And we do want to make sure that we're also taking care of our health. But if we're experiencing shame as a result of those things, then that's really a place for us to dive in and begin to explore that area of opportunity in terms of our own growth and development. And that's some of the things that we do in our retreats. It's a really important part of that. So you guys, I want to just get clear. There's like this important distinction that has been blurred in the public space. And that is the distinction between foundational health and elective optimization. Now, foundational health, that's your sleep, that's your nutrition, that's your digestion, that's your stress regulation, that's your hormones, it's your mitochondria, it's all of that. But the elective stuff, that's like, that's your aesthetic procedures. That is sometimes aggressive pharmaceuticals. It's experimental protocols. And when foundational health is unstable, those things are not built well, right? Then all of those elective interventions, they don't optimize you. They destabilize you. And so you can't optimize a system that's not stabilized, right? You can't, it's kind of like if you've got your house foundation is crumbling and it's like gravel, you can't build a house solidly on top of that gravel. You've got to go ahead and actually smooth it all out, pave it over to actually be able to build on top of that foundation. And it's really, it's no different from anything else in life. It reminds me, I'm a strong believer in the work that I do, right? I'm a strong believer in the kinesiologic testing that I use in my practice. I'm a strong believer in listening to what the body says. And I'm a strong believer that anything that we provide for the body should be used to restore coherence in the body. And recently I had a company approach me about a new product that they put out. And that product, so I test everything. And you guys, if you're not sure, like, how do I know which supplements are good, which supplements are bad? Where do I find them? Just write supplement in whatever channel you're watching this on, and I'll help you. I'll help you find it and figure out what's best. But even what we think could be beneficial or is touted as being beneficial isn't always that for the body. So this company had this product that came out and it didn't test well. It just didn't test well. And so, they're like, well, can you recommend this product to your clients? And I'm like, hell no, right? Hell no. Like, okay, you've got the scientific research and there's scientific research behind the product, but the product itself doesn't test well. So if you have a subpar product and you bring that into your body, well, it also has a subpar response. And that's what we need to start thinking about. So I think it's important for us to become very conscious this day and age, what we're seeing, taking everything with a grain of salt. I mean, come on, half the pictures and videos on social media, they're not even real anymore anyhow. But we've got to take these things with a grain of salt and really start to think through about what it is that is going to serve your body in the best possible way. And I really want to talk about the piece of influence, because when someone with a platform speaks, they're not just sharing a personal story, right? They're beginning to shape the norms. And here's where I have a concern. When high risk or high impact interventions are presented without a clear discussion of trade-offs or recovery demands, or what the downstream effects of them are, that's not empowerment. So choice without context is not empowerment. Okay. Choice without context is not empowerment. That's part of, it's part of my ethical core. And I think it's important when you're looking at things and trying to make decisions about things for your health, your life in general too, right? Is to begin to have that honest conversation. If you see something, explore it. Don't just jump in. Okay. And the other layer that came up here, of course, was shame. So there's a layer here that makes people uncomfortable, and that is that piece. So we've decided that if something feels like shame, right, we should just stop it altogether, right? We've got to like shut down that feeling of shame. But shame isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's a signal pointing to other things that are misaligned between our values and our actions, right? Some things that are maybe out of integrity. And I'm not advocating for shame, right? I'm advocating for curiosity. One of the things we tell our clients over and over and over again is you are an N of one. Your body is unique. And so the biggest thing that you can do to optimize your health is really to be curious, right? To be curious, to pay attention to the rhythms of your body, how your body responds to all different things. If all we're doing all the time is just suppressing discomfort, it doesn't make us healthier. Okay. Understanding is what does. It reminds me of, so one of the books I often recommend to our clients is a wonderful book by Dr. Joan Rosenberg. And if you follow my podcast, True Wellness with Dr. D, if you need a link, just write podcast in the comments and we'll provide you with a link for that. But you'll find an episode where I interviewed her as well. But her book is called 90 Seconds to a Life You Love. And the entire book is about her research, which she's done in the psychological realm. And she's got what she calls the Rosenberg reset. And that is when you come up against an emotion, typically what we want to do is we want to avoid it. Okay. I know sometimes after a stressful conversation, like I might find myself in the pantry and be like, why the heck am I here in the pantry? Right. Or the refrigerator or what have you. Okay. So there are things like that where we're not even conscious that we're moving into these automatic reactions, but we're using these automatic reactions to suppress, right, what it is that we're really feeling. Okay. So when we can ride the wave of that emotion, get present to it, like make friends with it, things begin to shift. We don't store that emotion anymore. We don't become run by the emotion because we're always running away from the emotion. And this is where I want you to begin to step into that space of curiosity. And go ahead and put in the comments. Tell me what's resonating with you guys. I know I'm kind of a little bit all over the place, but there's so many different pieces to what this post brought up that I think all the different pieces do need to be addressed. So for whatever platform that you're looking on, go ahead and put a comment like, do you find yourself, are there things that you're feeling shameful about? Are there things that like you're looking for a quick fix for, you're like, oh my gosh, I really need to cover this up. And that drives people so much of the time. So go ahead and put that in. So Suppressing discomfort, it doesn't make us any healthier. It's the understanding that does. And that's what I really want to leave you with and make sure that you've got that. So, a coherent approach to longevity asks very different questions. It's not about what can I add? What else can I do? The question is more so about what can my body actually integrate? Okay. And there's a lot of different pieces that are important to that. A lot of different pieces for you to consider, like the sequence of the way that you do things makes a big difference. We'll have clients who come into our practice and maybe they're working with us for months, years, and all of a sudden they'll show up, their testing will show that they've got a parasitic infection. And they always say, well, but Dr. D, how come this parasitic infection never showed up before? Okay. And the reason being is if your body is not ready to handle a parasite cleanse, well, when we're doing your kinesiologic testing, there's no way, there's no way that that's going to show up. Okay. Because your body innately knows what it can and cannot actually work with and deal with in the moment. Okay. So that's number one piece is that sequence. And we have to think about sequence before we start to push our bodies into different things. There's one of the blood work companies that we work with in my practice. They send our clients little devices where they can do their blood work from home. It's a little device that attaches to their arm, and then it takes the blood from there. And in order to have that test actually work, in order for them to be able to use the device to draw blood, they have to warm their body up, right? So the instructions for the blood work very clearly say, hey, for 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you do this, do some jumping jacks, do some squats, do arm circles, do things to get your body moving. And the kit even comes with little heating pad things. You break it open, the little pad gets really hot, and you put it right on your arm before you put the device on to do your blood work. Again, it's sequence before force. If we just went ahead, stuck the device on, and tried to do a blood draw, nothing's happening. You're not actually going to get the draw. But if you've warmed up that location, then they have a very successful at-home blood draw. Okay. So that sequence matters. The other piece is regulation. So I'll have, this happens all the time. So many of the clients that we work with are perimenopausal, menopausal women. They're concerned about weight gain. They're tired. They're exhausted. They're having mood swings, all these different things. And they're like, well, Dr. D, I exercise. I love exercise. I'm really working hard 5 days a week. I'm at the gym for at least an hour, going super hard. And I'm saying, well, wait a second. You're coming in because you're completely exhausted, but now you're pushing your body beyond where your body can actually manage. So, and it happens all the time. So I'll have women who come in who are literally burnt out, stressed out, running on cortisol, running on adrenaline, and they're working out as a way that they think that they're correcting themselves, right? Correcting the weight issue. But really what they're doing is they're making it worse, because what their body is signaling to them is, hey, I need to rest. And they're forcing their body. They're like, no, I'm going to push you to lose this weight. Okay. So I want you to think about that. So we've got to get to that regulation piece before we can even get to the next step. So is your body in that regulated state? Another piece is repair, you guys. Repair yourself before you go to enhance yourself, right? If you're, I call it, I love this saying, it's like putting lipstick on a pig, right? If you're just covering stuff up without actually repairing it, like getting to the underlying root cause, then we're not actually bringing ourselves into a more optimized state. Okay. And then think too, the other piece is it really is capacity before complexity. I tell our clients all the time, start with one thing, right? So if you're not getting up in the morning, meditating for an hour, working out for an hour, then doing your cold plunge and your sauna and this, that, and everything else, well, you've got to think about what your capacity is. Pick one thing that you can just be consistent with on a regular basis, and that will make a difference, you guys, because your body is not a machine to hack. Okay, I get it, biohacking, but your body is not a machine to hack. It is an ecosystem, and your body's ecosystem requires stewardship. And when we can be good stewards of our body, and I really believe that God built us as amazing, amazing machines. And quite honest, I think we only understand this much. I know we think we understand this much, but we only understand this much. And so it's important that we respect that everything that machine does, that our body does, is for our body's highest and best interest. So even when there's a symptom that shows up, if you've been following me, you know I love the statement: symptoms are signals, right? Symptoms are signals. I say it all the time. They're signals. So you've got to understand that your body is telling you exactly what it needs. Now, I'm not anti-tools. I'm anti pretending that all tools cost the same, because some tools, they build capacity. Some tools, they borrow from the future. And wisdom is really knowing what the difference is. Okay? Wisdom is really knowing what the difference is. Joanne, I'm not sure what you're referring to in your skin comment, but guys, feel free to put comments in there, and I'm happy to respond. This is live, so you can interact directly with me. All good. So longevity, it's not about, first of all, it's not about how optimized you look. Okay, it's really about how resilient your biology actually is. Okay, so for this individual, their biology is optimized. They've been working on it. So maybe a surgery doesn't have as large of an impact as it would on somebody else, which is part of why I feel it's irresponsible not to give more context in that area. So the other thing too, you guys, when your body is one big energetic system. So imagine that there's all these different wires running through your body. And if you've ever seen a Chinese meridian chart, that's kind of exactly what I'm talking about. Everything in your body communicates through kind of like all these different wires. Now imagine if one of the wires in your wall got cut. Well, everything else on that circuit starts to break down. So the minute that we have a physical injury, like a surgery or a trauma, like a big blow to our body, it creates what's called an interference field. So that interference field becomes an area in the body that's essentially dead. So it's like nutrition cannot move. Things cannot move through that pathway the way that it was designed to. So in my practice, we use mud packs in a very, very specific way in order to reopen up those pathways. But not everybody knows about that, right? So if we're just taking these interventions and thinking, oh, so-and-so is really famous and they had this intervention, let me just go follow them. Well, if their body is not in the same state as your body, then we now create an additional issue. Okay. So again, I am not about pretending that all of these different tools cost the same thing. And longevity really is, like I said, it's about how resilient you actually are, right? It's how resilient you actually are. So here's what I want to leave you with tonight, guys. Before adopting any optimization, ask yourself, what is this thing asking of my nervous system? What is this thing asking of my immune system? What is this thing asking of my future self? Okay. Not everything that is popular is benign, and not everything that's available is actually necessary. Okay. So health does not require perfection. It doesn't, but it requires honesty. It requires you to be in tune with your body and what your body needs. And I truly believe that the next evolution in the health space, it's not about more hacks, you guys. And this is where I'm going. This is where the body led movement is going. This is where the back to basics is going. These are the things that I'm bringing out into the world, because I believe that when we become more responsible, when we tune in, that shifts. And when health optimization, the way it is, actually ignores biological consequences, it stops being health. It stops being health. So I'll leave you with that, everyone. Thank you for being a part of this thoughtful conversation. I want to hear your thoughts and in what you're thinking. And I want to know, like, what, type into the comments. What are some of the health trends that are giving you pause lately? What are you seeing? And you're like, wait a second, right? Is that good? Is it bad? Is it what? And you guys, let me take that back. I don't want to use the words good and bad. Each person, things have a different response. So I want to be responsible for my language there. But that's all I got for you today. I look forward to seeing you all live sometime next week. Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.